All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee with the Mayor and City Manager. I'm Mayor Cal Sheehy.
Good morning. Merry Friday to you. Yeah, I'm Jess Knutson, your City Manager.
And welcome. So we'll go over some hot topics that are going on in Lake Havasu City and give you some updates, and then we will answer any questions that you have either on those topics or anything that might be on your mind within Lake Havasu City. So we'll start with some good news. It's been a long time coming, but the Riviera opened up just last week in anticipation of Memorial Day weekend. The news reports say that everything was smooth and worked out very well. So just for some historical background, the Havasu Riviera is a new development on the south end of town as you're heading up the hill. There's going to be, or there is now, a new marina as well as several new communities that are back in that area. Many of the communities have already started going vertical with their building. Land sales are going well under an agreement with a private developer that owns that land. Lake Havasu City's role was to build the roadway over to the marina. And the marina is the first new mainland launch facility in Lake Havasu City in over 2 decades. So pretty exciting about that to have it open. What is open right now really is just a launching facility. Midsummer, they anticipate to have the fuel docks open as well as a marina store. And then in future phases, there'll be boat docks and marina-like amenities, as well as a restaurant, bar, and a dry storage facility. But the intersection is now open. Some of you may have noticed that already. So the intersection light is operable, so it does change from green to red. And we do ask that people take caution in that area. We've had a few instances over there just for people assuming that it was going to remain green at all times. But that traffic light is now working, so please use caution in that area. But also go check out the neighborhood. Feel free to drive down there and see what's going on, and you'll have beautiful views from the vistas as you drive along the parkway. But we are excited that it's open after many delays that occurred. But we welcome that new amenity to Lake Havasu City. I know, Jess, you've been working on that for many years alongside me and many others.
Oh, sure.
I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, you did say it opened up smoothly. It was, I think the light went operable at 8 a.m. I got notified at 8:30 that we had our first accident. We had message boards on both sides that said signal light will be operable, well in a week in advance. The accident that did occur was minor in nature. There's no injuries that did occur. There's reports of a second accident that actually occurred south of Lake Havasu City, but it was on 95. But yeah, just be cautious in that area. A lot of people are curious and want to get down there and take a look at it, and so yeah, do that.
Yeah, so we've been working really hard on the budget. We are in budget season. The budget will be tentatively adopted at our next council meeting. And so our next council meeting on June 14th, we'll have the tentative adoption. What that means for a tentative adoption is that we can't change any of the spending thresholds. So once we do the tentative budget adoptions, that sets what the spending is going to be. And then by final adoption, we could reduce expenses, but we could not increase expenses. So that will happen on June 14th, and then the final adoption would happen at our council meeting on June 28th. This has been a long process, and I'll let Jess talk about it. He and his team spend the most time with that. But from the council's perspective, we start in February at our annual planning session, talking about priorities and things of that nature that are important to citizens that we've heard from throughout the year or that we've seen through the operations. I'm happy to report that the budget that Jess and his team are presenting to the council is a balanced budget. Has no debt at all into that budget, so no new debt financing. There's no tax increases, keeping the property tax rate flat for the 5th year in a row, which is fantastic. It also doubles our budget stabilization reserve, which is, on news reports you might hear it as rainy day funds or additional reserve dollars. We're doubling that, so we'll have over 6 months of reserves. What that does is, should there be a change in the economy or a change in position, it gives us ample time to be able to react without having our citizens feel the impact of what those reactions might be. So very excited to be able to do that. It also addresses some of our staff resources to ensure that we can have and continue to have the best of the brightest working for the city. Obviously, in this labor market right now, it's very easy for people to get a job and go to other places or do other things. And so we have a COLA increase built in, along with some flexibility for Jess and his team to adjust different structures based on demand within our organization. And then it also gives us some critical investments in infrastructure throughout our community, roadways, water, wastewater, those types of things, and additional investments in some staff resources for public safety. Most notably, you may have read in the newspaper that it increases the ranks of city staff by 26 positions. Those were all 26 positions that Justin and his team were able to identify would allow the city to operate in a more efficient manner. But is it 10 of those are?
11.
11 of those are through, for the fire department, through a SAFER grant. And that SAFER grant would not use any local dollars, but it would be a grant that allows us to hire those 11 positions. And through Chief Palafis, he's been able to identify future retirements that are coming up within his organization and allow us to backfill and replace them now with a SAFER grant to make sure that they're trained and ready to go as these retirements happen over the next 2 to 5 years. So it's a great way, a very innovative way that the chief has presented to ensure that we still can provide EMS services and fire services to our citizens at no additional cost to the local taxpayer using local taxpayer dollars. Now, I do understand that grants from the federal government are tax dollars. They are dollars that we pay as citizens, but that is getting our share back into our community, and it's a good way to be able to balance that and allow for that to happen. So very proud of Justin and his team on the budget, and just if you want to talk about all of the additional, I hit all of the great highlights, but he had to do all of the hard work to get us there.
Great synopsis of what's occurring in that budget, and it's important. A lot of people hear the word budget, they go, "Oh, what a dry conversation we're about to have." That's the 12-month plan for Lake Havasu City or your municipal government. What's going to occur from July 1st to June 30th coming up, and if it's not in the budget, it's real hard for us to accomplish those things. So we try real hard to think in advance. We're already thinking about the following year, what's going to happen on July 1st, 2023, and in terms of that. So these conversations we have on the first Friday of every month, and conversations we have at the council meeting and with our residents and business owners and others in the community, we try to take what we hear within the parameters of the dollars that we have and try to make things work the best way that we know how. So I think in terms of that SAFER grant too, by the way, we're applying for it. We're hoping to get it. I think the chief said he's hoping to hear back here maybe in the next couple of weeks at the earliest for whether or not we'll be successful with that SAFER grant. 11 positions in fire to backfill some future retirements coming up. One other thing that we're looking at real closely, you did mention infrastructure, roads, water, sewer, our backup water supply. We're working hard on bringing 2 additional wells online. We should have 1 additional well online at the end of this month, and then 1 more will be online here probably late fall. And that's an important project that the city, with the direction of the council and the vision of the council to get that accomplished, and we've been working on that for about 4 years now. We have 1 source of water within Lake Havasu City up until the backup water supply project is going on. So that's a big deal, and it's nice to cross that finish line here in the next couple months. And then I think I've mentioned at the coffees before is that so I challenged the team, and we're coming up with some different ideas on what other road products are out there. And so I think you're going to see we'll dabble with chip seal and fog seal like we have in the past, but you're going to see some new products that are out there as far as like road. And we'll take a close look at that. Maybe identify a couple streets, do some testing, see how it holds up, and make sure that we have something that's going to last us. So the direction I give to the team is let's be creative, look at what other communities are doing, and then take a look at what's the cost of that road over the course of 10 years. So because you have to lay down the road, then you got to maintain the road, and you got to seal the road, and then maybe it's so you touch it year 1, you touch it year 4, touch it year 8. What's that cost of that road over the course of 10 years? So take that divided by 10, and then let's look at that and kind of compare and contrast where we're at with some of the options that are out there. So I'm real proud of Bill Young. He's our street superintendent, and he's coming up with some really fresh ideas, and I talked to him earlier this week, and really excited to see what he comes up with. But those are certain details within the budget that we'll be working with this coming fiscal year.
Yeah, so when it comes to streets, we got a lot of praise for what McCulloch looks like from a coma to smoke tree. So that's what Jess is talking about, is more roads like that. So that
Closer to that.
Yeah,
that was $32 a square yard.
Yeah, so that's kind of what he's talking about, just so you can visualize what that is. And just to circle back on water, because water is talked a lot in different pathways right now, especially with the drought that's been called. When Jess talks about having the redundant fresh water supply and that we're going to have 2 additional wells to be able to pull our water from, that's not taking additional water. That's still our Colorado River water entitlement. That's what Lake Havasu City has, is Colorado River water.
It's being able to take the one well down to maintain it and bring another well up, and then being able to use one at a time at any point in time to make sure that there's water service is not interrupted in Lake Havasu.
Yeah,
so sorry to interrupt that.
No, yeah. So if there's any maintenance issues, or which we weren't able to take down our main well for many, many years because we didn't have that backup system. So this is going to allow us to properly use infrastructure and ensure that when citizens turn on the faucet, they'll be able to do it, but it's not taking any additional allocation. When it comes to water and water allocation, Lake Havasu City has about 29,000 acre feet of water allocation from the Bureau of Reclamation. We're using a little less than 13,000 currently. So that's we're actually using less water today than we were in the 1990s, and that's a tribute to all of our citizens and how they use water, as well as investments in infrastructure that the city has done with water reuse programs, reclamation, those types of things. So we're going to continue to do that. We continue to advocate at the state level as well as around the state with other organizations to take some lessons from what we've done in Lake Havasu City, and let's replicate that throughout the state so that we can continue to conserve water to ensure that water futures for all of us and all of the users is there. The Colorado River accounts for about 40 million people that use that for their drinking water on the lower basin. So really important and critical water source for us, and we have to be good stewards of what that looks like. But so Lake Havasu City is still taking what it normally is with our freshwater redundancy, but the allocation remains the same. Another priority that we identified in the budget from a council perspective and gave Jess direction for was to take a look at code enforcement. Currently, we have one code enforcement officer that handles upwards of 750 to 800 complaints in a year, and she does a fantastic job, but she's just overworked and doesn't have enough time to be able to hit all of those areas. We're increasingly getting comments and feedback from citizens about code violations, and so to help identify what those look like and what we can do, we're still going to do it from an education perspective. So generally we get compliance through education, and that will still be the direction, but we'll have some additional staff resources in this current budget to be able to do that. And I know, Jess, you and your team are taking a look at some code opportunities to bring to council, and what that might look like if you want to share some of that information.
Yeah, and then just recall that our code enforcement, the way we handle it in Lake Havasu City, is reactive. It's not proactive. So we don't have city employees out there looking for violations. We rely on those in the community to let us know when something isn't right and contact our code enforcement. We'll be adding one additional team member to assist Denise with what she's looking at. And then right now we need to take a look at our nuisance chapter within the city code, and that deals with all the things that guides the process as far as junk, debris, and the different things that occur in somebody's yard. And I talk a lot with council. I talk a lot with staff about if reality and code don't match, one of the two has to change. You can't just kind of keep on chugging along and ignore one or the other. Same with reality or policy. We got to find a way to match those things up. And right now, Denise has been doing a wonderful job, but there is some gray area in terms of what a junk vehicle is defined at within the code, and how that's practiced within the community. So we're going to take a close look at that definition and provide Denise and our city team with the tools and the clarity that's needed to make decisions that are uniform, consistent, and transparent across the board. So it's not about me or you. It's about this is the rules that we all have to abide by. Right now, if it's a junk vehicle, is defined if it's not registered or it's inoperable. And we're allowing, if you put a cover over your car, then it magically disappears. It's no longer a junk vehicle. So we're looking real closely at that and to see what that means. And Some of the initial conversations right now is that if you want to have an inoperable vehicle, it's got to be out of view. Put it in your garage, in your backyard if it's shielded or otherwise. And I understand too, because this conversation comes up quite a bit prior to my time here, but what about 10 years ago or so when the code enforcement chapter came up, and I think at that time there was a conversation about limiting the number of vehicles in the front yard. So that's something that could be discussed at a later time, but that has nothing to do with what we're talking about here today, or will be before council here in the upcoming months. But just trying to define what that looks like in terms of how we present ourselves in our neighborhood. Got to understand that affordable housing is an issue, right? And you also have to understand that people have roommates and additional vehicles in the front yard. We're not trying to capture that. We're talking about vehicles that don't run. Maybe it's that the weekend mechanic, or once a month mechanic that's trying to get that car started for the last 15 years that hasn't quite done it yet. Those are the types of things that we're taking a close look at. So if you have thoughts or opinions, we'd love to hear them, and then we'll be presenting that to council. Give us about 45 days or so. Yeah.
Yeah, currently, and also with these changes, code enforcement complaints can be given to the city through an app. It's called Havasu Now. You can download that in your app store, depending on what carrier you have. Again, it's Havasu Now. You just download it. You can take a picture of the code violation that you believe it to be. It automatically sends it to the correct department with the GPS coordinates of where that might be. And then you also get reporting back of how the status of that complaint is being resolved. So that's the easiest way. But if that's not your thing, you can go online and apply
apply for a code enforcement job?
Yeah, you could do that too. Coming July 1, is that when it's going to be listed? You can go online and report the code violation as you see, or you can also call into City Hall and let us know about your code violation. So there's 3 different ways that you can do it. It's very easy to make that happen, but again, that app is really slick because you get real-time results of what's happening to take that code violation. So,
and you get reports back. You get updated on what the outcome is. Yeah.
Yes, so it's a really slick way to do that with code enforcement. So stay tuned for additional conversation and let us know what you think about that. But these are all stemming from conversations that we have with citizens throughout the community on what's happening in your respective neighborhood. We also, when it comes to code enforcement, illegal dumping in the desert is becoming a real issue in Lake Havasu City. It's a very tricky situation because Lake Havasu City limits don't include a lot of this desert area that's there. There are some areas, but the majority of it's not actually in our limit, so we don't have necessarily the jurisdiction to do it. But Supervisor Johnson, who represents District 3, which is the majority of Lake Havasu, South Lake Havasu to about the central part of our town, is working with the Board of Supervisors to increase their enforcement of this area. We have committed our resources in a partnership, and then we're also working with BLM. So the 3 together will be able to do that. If you were coming into Lake Havasu City from the north, for about 3 or 4 weeks, we had a really ugly abandoned trailer right at the edge of the runway, which wasn't in our jurisdiction, wasn't on our land. It wasn't on BLM land, but it was kind of like right on the line of BLM. So BLM's actually the one that was able to make it happen for us. But it's those types of things because of the cross-jurisdictional people that makes it difficult to do what we all would think is just very common and easy to make happen. So, but we all put our heads together to be able to come up with a partnership and an agreement. We're still working through that. But we would ask users that are in the desert and see people coming with a full bed of stuff, to maybe take their license plate number down and let us know who they are so that we can identify what that is that's happening out there. Because generally they take a full bed of stuff out and they come back empty, which is unusual. So, but it's when you get into the desert, if you are an off-roader at all, and you get a little bit past where folks can drive, it's beautiful and pristine. But if there's areas that just regular vehicles can drive, it really is a shame that we're treating our public resources this way. If you're a gun enthusiast to go out there and shoot, fantastic, enjoy, but take anything that you take with you, bring back. And if there's anything glass, don't take it with you. Yeah, we don't want to shoot up TVs, and we don't want to do any of those types of things. There's other users that are coming right behind you that want to use it, and let's take care of this natural resource that we have. I know you've been involved with those conversations with me and our partners on this, and I know we're committed to it. I don't know if you have anything additional to share.
Well, certainly, it's one of those things where that within the confines of Lake Havasu City it's not illegal to drive around the town with a truckload of junk. It's not illegal to leave our jurisdiction or municipal boundaries with a truckload of junk. And it's not illegal to come back into Lake Havasu City with an empty truck. The illegal activity is happening outside of our jurisdiction, so we have conversations with, just in the within the last month or a couple of weeks, as we've talked to BLM, I've talked to Buster Johnson, there's a race program over at Public Works, and other individuals outside of Lake Havasu that we need.
The County Public Works.
I'm sorry, yeah, thank you, yeah.
Yes.
The County Public Works, Mojave County Public Works Department, that's based out of Kingman. And then ERACE is ERACE if you want to do a Google search and help them. When you talk about taking a picture of that loaded truck going out in the desert, what ERACE does is they investigate after it occurs. They're not out there monitoring or enforcing or trying to stop it. Once there is a pile of junk out there, they try to sift through it and see, all right, let's find out who this is. So they need people in the community with some pictures if that's working there. Working with all these entities trying to figure something out. BLM presented at the Mojave County Board of Supervisors meeting a couple weeks back and talked about some of the things that they're talking about, including maybe an increased or a reward system, a pretty hefty one that would be out there, and I think that would make a lot of sense. Even talk about confiscating vehicles and heavy fines and all the things that are out there. These are just conversations that I probably shouldn't be sharing, but these are conversations we had with BLM and some of where they're going. And then in the meantime, it's the county. I talked to Supervisor Buster Johnson, and he's presenting to the county board about an increase for the reward process for a race and when they investigate and how that works out. And right now at the county level, that if you go out there and dump a bunch of trash out in the desert, and they catch you, they contact you and they say, all right, you got to pay this fine, or you can go clean it up. 99 times out of 100, they go clean it up because it's cheaper than that, and then they don't get fined. Some of the conversations we're going to have at the county level is that we're going to fine you, and you got to go clean it up, and we're maybe increase the reward for anybody that sees this type of violation. So, I think, frankly, my personal opinion is the legal dumping in the desert hasn't been addressed to any significant degree. It's a lot of hand slapping or hand touching when something like that happens. So. We'll see what occurs there.
Yeah, with the new partnership, we'll be able to. We all have law enforcement entities within these three partners, so we can now conquer and divide, if you will, and actually have live enforcement happening. And once the word gets out, people hopefully will stop doing it. Now, if you have junk that you need to get rid of, the great news is through our contract with Republic Services, you can get bulky pickup. And Christine shares that with us at most every council meeting. And she has her boards with her today. So you can call Republic Services at 928-855-9441. Again, 928-855-9441, and they can pick up your stuff. So if you're finding yourself in a position where you're having to move apartments or you're having to move for some reason, you can call that number, leave it on the curb when your lease is up or expired, and Republic Services will come on their next scheduled day. There is no rush for you to run and throw it in the desert. That's just not necessary at all. So I will have a concentrated effort now because we're talking and we're having these conversations. So hopefully we'll actually see some good results out there in the desert, and also just through education. I know it seems simple that we would think we shouldn't leave trash in the desert, but it's just not that simple. Some believe that that's okay to do. So it's not okay to do, and we want to make sure that we can keep that desert enjoyable for all. And then we had a water main break since last time we all met down on Lake Havasu Avenue. Some reported it as a sinkhole between Industrial and South Palo Verde. It was not that at all. It was just a big water main break. But we have some action coming up on the council, and Justin and his team have been working on it. So just if you want to share those conversations with the group.
Yeah, no, appreciate that too. I got reported in the newspaper that we had the sinkhole. So then everybody was walking around real gingerly to make sure that the rest of the city wasn't gonna eat us up. It wasn't a sinkhole. So what happened was we had a water main break in an area we know that we need to replace the water main. That broke that flood of water that comes out of a water main, a huge pipe. Then eroded the road, and then we had a motorist that drove right into the hole. Somebody took a picture and then called it a sinkhole. That was scheduled to be in the budget for this after July 1st, but with this break here, and we're trying to get ahead of the process as quickly as possible. So council will be considering a contract for about $1.8 million, and that'll be from Acoma to Kiowa on the north side of town, and that is a water main replacement throughout the entire area on Lake Havasu Avenue for that entire area. And then the asphalt that would be obviously be required to place on top of the new main. But we've had some bursts in that area pretty consistently over the years. We identified it in the budget as a need and as a priority. Unfortunately, we missed this one by just a couple months to get ahead of this too. But that'll be coming up on Tuesday for council to consider. And $1.8 million for a water main stretch from Lake Havasu Avenue from Kiowa to Acoma. That's not a huge stretch, and that's a lot of money. But that's the dollars it takes to make sure that the water is continuing to flow in Lake Havasu City, and we do our best to get ahead of these things as best we can with the dollars that are afforded to us.
Yeah, so it's just said we only have we missed it by 3 months. It was in the budget to get it done, and we missed it by 3 months. It burst before that. But this area between Acoma and Kiowa is by the McCulloch factory. So to put it in perspective, it's been there since day one, this initial infrastructure that needs to be replaced. And then those that are driving Lake Havasu Avenue, it's a pretty bumpy road right now in that area because we did some just patch asphalt work that will then be smoothed out when we did. We just didn't want to come through, do new asphalt knowing that we're going to have to pull back up and do these types of things. So that'll be coming up in our next council meeting, which is a week from this coming Tuesday. Also, we have talked about this last time we were together, but council took action on the downtown density conversation. So we were talking about the residential areas of our downtown area. So we could kind of take a look at McCulloch from Acoma down to Lake Havasu Avenue. So take all of McCulloch Boulevard. That's like the commercial district. So no conversations were occurring in that area. But go to the two roads over, you have Mesquite and you have Swanson. That's now the residential nodes of the downtown district that we had the discussion on. Planning and zoning reviewed it 2 times and made recommendations to council about what to do. What our intent was to do is to ensure that the zoning that was already in that area was actually followed through. So the zoning that occurred in that area was in like the 2007-8 timeframe, right following behind a RUDAT study, which is a rural urban group of architects put on by the American Institute of Architects, and they pick a community each year and they go in and they master develop long-range plans. We're talking 20 to 100 years. And they did that here in Lake Havasu City in 2007. So right after that, council took action and they increased zoning and heights and some of these things in this area. And then right after that, the economy took a crash. And so nothing really occurred in that area. But now things are starting to happen in that area. And what the original intention of the RUDAT planning was, the general plan, which is adopted by the voters, and the zoning that council passed in those years, was not necessarily what was happening. It was all conforming. It was legal what was happening, but it just wasn't conforming to what those plans were. And so we wanted planning and zoning to take a look at that, and then, of course, council to take a look, and we did that. What the issue is the easiest way I can describe it is if you take go to Swanson with me. I'll start an issue. It's low building. We go next door and there's the Views, which is a beautiful new development that's 4 stories. You go further down and you have Hidden Palms, a great property that's been there for many years, but it's 2-story. Then you go next door and there's tiny homes. That's a new development, and then you go to a 4-plex condo, and then you go to these really tall, skinny buildings that are being built right now, and then back down to small. That's what we were trying to prevent from happening, so that the whole downtown area has the same look and feel. And when we talk about high density, we're talking about best use for the land. Successful downtowns are built upon people, and people being there, living there, being part of that downtown community. And that can only happen if people are living in multi-story buildings, if you will. So the action that we took was that all of these areas have to be 50% of a second story. So if you have a first floor, you do have to have a second floor of 50% of that area. That will give people, developers, builders, people that own the property, options where they can do different living situations that bring in density and units, the number of units to that area. It by far was the single largest action that council took when it comes to solving or addressing the housing challenges that we have in Lake Havasu City. We've had lots of conversations, lots of partnerships, lots of discussions, lots of things to address housing, but this is actually the only formal action that we have been able to take to do that, and of course make sure that we address what the plans of all of those before us had in place for what that would look like. And again, that was on Mesquite and Swanson. It does go into like Moyo and Mariposa, those types of roads as well in that area as the zoning code allows. But some of the discussion was parking. If you do all of these things, what do we do with parking, and how does parking look? And that's a true issue. But I just would ask that you look at some of the developments that are already in these areas and neighborhoods, and see that there is no parking on the street because of those. And so you can take a look at El Condo and some of those that have parking tucked underneath, and they don't do road parking, except at the time we were having this discussion, they were doing parking lot repairs, and so they were on the road. But for the most part, you don't see a lot of traffic parked on Swanson at all. So now the next conversation is what happens when we have large events, and if these lots start to develop, where are people going to park for these events? Great question, and something that we have been looking towards and looking into the future. The Mesquite parking lot is very new. So there's a parking lot that the city purchased about 8 or 10 years ago, and then developed maybe 6 to 8 years ago with asphalt and those types of things. That wasn't there, but that was a plan to help identify what parking might look like. We have additional plans in the future as well as that need arises, but these vacant lots are owned by somebody and have been owned by somebody for potentially a long time. So they do have the ability and the right to develop their land. They've just been gracious enough to allow us to park there during our special events. So it's our job at the city to ensure that we balance that and what that looks like from parking needs, downtown walkability, and downtown usability with housing and all of those things. So there's lots of balls in the air that we're trying to juggle to make sure that private property owners are able to use their property that they own, and also ensure that the needs of our citizens are met. And that's kind of that balance that we're trying to find. I know you were involved in many conversations and outreach that we did with citizens and otherwise. Jess, I don't know if I missed anything on that conversation.
No, I think it's been something that's been discussed publicly, I think, since February, and at the planning and zoning level, commission level, and so forth. I think just maybe kind of a reminder is that we're talking about zoning and downtown densities. We're not talking about existing buildings. So Mayor, you're alluding to the vacant lots and so forth. So these are rules that would apply for new construction within the areas, basically the Mesquite and Swanson corridors, with a little give in each of those areas. So, but I just want to make sure that we all understand we're not talking about you have to tear down your house and build something new. We're talking about zoning, which would apply for new construction.
Yeah, there's 17 acres of vacant land in that area. So I thought that was an interesting fact. So we have 17 acres left that we can ensure that the intent of the general plan is met. So the committees, boards, and commissions, if you are interested in any of them, we have several openings. July 1 is the new fiscal year for the city. So that's when our boards, committees, and commissions, generally their terms are expiring or up. We have the Planning and Zoning Commission, We have the Airport Advisory Board. We have Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. And then we have the new Community Resource Coalition Board, which is a new board that is set for a time sensitive, that the council has set aside and identified up to $1 million for different pathways of work that can be done within our community on pathways of housing, adult senior care, child care, social service agencies, and food. And they can come through and apply for grants or partnerships, whatever that might look like. It's pretty flexible to actually be able to move Lake Havasu City forward in some of these critical areas. The board would hear what those are. They'd set up that process, and then they would make recommendations to the council to do that. That's a new board that will do that work, and then it'll be dissolved. But today is the deadline, so if you're interested in any of those boards, committees, or commissions, please contact the city clerk's office for an application, and you can get the application in, and then you'll follow the board interview process that we do for all of our board folks, and hopefully we'll do appointments in early July, maybe our first meeting in July. We'll be able to do the appointments for all of those things. So again, if you're interested, today is the deadline. We've been getting the word out as best we can to everyone that we have these. Actually, we just had another press release go out on Monday, and we've been able to get a good number of folks that were interested. So we're
Today at 5 o'clock is the deadline.
Yeah, so we're really excited. Our citizens are so engaged and focused on what we're doing. We love that. We love that engagement. So thank you so much for those that have stepped up and put an application in. We are doing some traffic light work at Lake Havasu Avenue and Smoke Tree. Jess, if you want to share with the group what that work is going to entail.
Yeah, so we're talking about that signal light, and it's something that we're slowly transitioning to do throughout the city, little by little. For those that have been in Havasu for a while, can understand our traffic signal makeup or how we approach it is we have a lot of actuators, and actuators are in the ground. So they don't sense that you're at the light knows, if you will, that you're there when the car goes into the lane and there's a weight that goes on the actuator that sends a signal to the traffic signal to turn green for you. So a lot of times you're on 95 or in other areas and you got dozens of cars traveling in each direction, and one car comes and on the side street, sits on the actuator, signals to the signal that it's time for turn green, and then everybody else stops. And that one car goes goes by. So it's just a process that's what's worked in Havasu. A lot of cities have approached it that way, but we're slowly transitioning from that type of a process. And I'm not talking about 95. That's ADOT and what they're doing over there too. But within our signals in Havasu is then going to like a video sensing system, so that monitor then will then be able to tell that there's a volume of cars that are lined up or they're queued up, and then so some more intelligent approaches can take place in terms of traffic flow and those types of things too. So that's one signal we're looking at, where we're working at very closely with the state. The other signals we really want to get up on that system is going to be on Mesquite and Swanson, both on Lake Havasu Avenue. You're traveling southbound on 95, you try to take a left onto Mesquite. And then you got the line of cars that gets to the intersection, and then they all stop at the next traffic signal. That's something that we need to work on, and we need to get away from that process of actuators on our signals on our city property, and then do something a little bit more that's a little more sophisticated. So it's one example where we're starting that process and trying to check the boxes one by one as we go through that.
Yeah, great. And that work will start on the 6th of June. So I believe the 6th is Monday? Monday, Tuesday of next week is when that work will be happening. So if you travel in that area, just use caution, as the folks will be there working on that project. Also, since last time we talked, we at the council talked about a project on London Bridge Road. So in the county on London Bridge Road is kind of a unique roadway. It kind of follows the old Highway 95 from the early days, but then it's been redeveloped. There's land in Lake Havasu City, there's land in the county, and so it's kind of an interesting connection of entities that are involved on London Bridge Road. The county, about a year and a half ago, put in bike lanes and restriped and did some traffic calming measures in their area. A grant became available for the city to do something very similar. And so we are going to extend what the county work has done into the city with bike lanes and some traffic calming measures, traffic feedback signs. So those are signs that if you're traveling 35 miles an hour, it'll tell you that you're traveling 35 miles an hour. Hopefully that's what you're traveling. If you're traveling 42 miles an hour, it's going to flash 42 and say slow down. So we'll have some of those, but that project was identified through this process of a grant. And so we've had some feedback from folks saying, why would you do that? Or why would we encourage people to go on London Bridge Road and bicycles and those types of things? They're already on London Bridge Road. And so that's why this is a safety measure to ensure to protect bicyclists that are using it. They use that roadway for bicycling, so it would be, it's imperative for us to ensure that it's a safe area, but also with this traffic feedback signs, that also will help calm that traffic in that area because of that odd continuation of jurisdictions that are on that road. So you can go 45 in some places, you can go 25 in some places, you can go 35 in some places. So we're just trying to make that roadway a safer area, but it was again identified through a grant that was the specific area that the monies could be used. It's not like we could take that grant and use it in another area because it didn't meet the traffic safety protocol that this grant called for. So, but it'll be a nice improvement of continuation of what the county's already done into Lake Havasu City for those users of that roadway. Hopefully it'll make it safer for those that use it as their daily driver, but it also make it easier for those that are recreating in that area on that stretch. So we'll start seeing work on that to occur in the coming months. But again, that's through a grant that was identified through our MPO, or our Metropolitan Planning Organization. So
some things aren't exactly clear in terms of like how we get grants and how that funding occurs. And then the grants we get specifically for projects like this are identified with HSIP funds, Highway Safety Improvement Project funds, and those. Typically as working for the city, we would like to try to identify problems, and then we try to find a solution based on that problem. With these grant funds, it doesn't work that way. So in a large part, we have to be creative and try to think big and on what we can apply for some of these funds. Again, like you alluded to earlier, we pay taxes to the federal government. We need to ensure that some of those taxes come back and benefit us because we're paying the taxes. But to qualify for some of these funds, you have to have accidents. And sometimes these accidents, so it's after the fact, right? Which seems really silly as I hear a chuckle there too. That's my reaction as well too. So areas that qualify for these types of funds is if there was a pedestrian accident, if there was a vehicle accident, and then there's got to be X amount of accidents, and if there's a fatality, then it really qualifies. So it's like one of those things where we identify basically about 6 or 8 different intersections throughout the community that says, all right, funds are available for these intersections. And a lot of times those funds don't make any sense for those intersections, and that's just one thing that we have to work through. Acoma Boulevard North and Pima. There's that the Hawk system. That's a beacon. It's basically a lighted crosswalk. If the kids want to utilize that, that's an example of some of those funds. And several years ago, we had a child, I believe, that was crossing Acoma that died in a vehicle pedestrian accident. So then that area qualified for those types of funds for that Hawk. So just kind of want to explain that, and a lot because for the most part, how we handle business here at the city, it's like see a problem, fix a problem. And in some of these cases, there's a pool of funds out here, but it has to be spent on in these ways. And sometimes we have to be creative in terms of what that looks like. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We also have identified another safety issue if you're a boater and you use the channel. You may have seen at the south end of the channel, it's closing in. It's not very easy to navigate through there. So we are going to do a dredging project on the south end of the channel to clean that area out. If you were out there this weekend, over the holiday weekend, you noticed some signs that say no mooring in the channel at an area that's close to that. Those signs are there because we were we had issues with boaters that would be there, and then other people that are trying to navigate through. It's just really, really tight. So we just cleared out a few of those spots. I think it's maybe the equivalent of 10 spots, maybe 15 spots, but it's all for safety. And if you are a user of the channel or use Thompson Bay at all, you know exactly what we're talking about, but we have been able to identify resources in this coming budget to be able to dredge that area and make that a safe way to navigate. Right now, we're almost down to one-way traffic. So if it's that close, before you used to be able to get 2 boats going by at a time, you have to kind of all go in together, and then the folks that are going to be heading north have to kind of come together, and then they wait their turn. And everyone's very courteous and respectful, but it's a safety concern that we need to get addressed. And just if you want to talk about timing or what that looks like.
Yeah, so that's Army Corps of Engineers. Anytime we go and touch any dirt on the bottom of the water, it triggers an entire process. So, and what we're talking about is that the south end of the channel, and as over the course of years, I think that was dredged maybe like about 10 years ago, so then the sand slowly comes back, right? That's the natural progression of what's occurring out there. For us to get the permit from Army Corps of Engineers and other regulatory bodies in a normal process, that's 18 months, and we've started some of that, but we've also identified this as an emergency. We have boaters that there's accidents that are occurring. It's right in the vicinity of people that have their boats parked and are mooring in the area. We have a swimming area for kids over there too. So you got boats and you got kids that are swimming and all the other things that are happening. It's an emergency. So we're also applying to get something that's going to be done on the forefront sooner than that process. So we're hoping to get something here in the next, I'd love to say 30 days, probably closer to 60 days. We'll get out there and start moving some dirt. I think that the goal there is to get something done before July 4th with that holiday that's coming up. So we're going to try real hard to set that as the goal and try to accomplish that. It's a tough one because, again, we're used to see a problem, fix a problem. Now it's see a problem, fill out paperwork, and wait 18 months to be able to do something about it. But we're trying to expedite that process as the best we can.
All right, we have one other update to give, but before we do, we are grateful to have Senator Borelli and Representative Biasucci with us. So if you guys want to come up and say a few words if you want and say hello, thank you for being here.
Say a few words?
A few words, yes. Yeah.
Thank
Good to see you. Yeah.
Thanks. Some of you folks are probably getting phone calls from the IRS or Social Security saying, hey, you owe us money. And you've been getting those kind of phone calls, right? Well, here's a good public service announcement for you. Just tell them that they're calling you on a business phone, and you're not supposed to do personal business on a business phone. So please call you on your home phone and then give them this number. And that number is 602-542-5025. That's the number to the Attorney General's office, and those phone calls will stop. Right now, we're still in legislative session. We're trying to get the budget done, that's going to be a real chore. We have until June 30th to get the budget done, or we'll have to freeze the clock because it has to be done before July 1st. So we have a surplus, finally. It took us 10 years to dig us out of a deficit. We were $1 billion in the hole, and we had, Matt, you remember the sweeps of highway user funds, SLIF funds, everything else. It took us years to finally get the sweeps to be halted and finally getting the state well. Well, we got almost $6 billion of a surplus right now, and that is because of the tax policies that we put in place over the years. Now we have a flat tax, 2.5% straight across the board on your personal income tax. Even a retired military, their pension is finally tax exempt because it was ridiculous. They didn't earn it here; they earned it overseas. But those kind of tax policies, by freezing, lowering taxes, puts more money in your pocket. It doesn't belong to us; it belongs to you. You have every right to keep it. So when we have a surplus, what we're talking about now is now you have money in your pocket. So that means purchasing power is higher. Well, was higher until recently with gas prices going through the roof, and then of course, obviously prices at the grocery store and so on and so forth. But these are the type of things that we've been doing over the last few years, and we finally got that done. We're paying down some debt. Trying to eliminate most of our debt. We have some pension liability that we still need to shore up, and these are the kind of things that we're getting done, and we're trying to and also at the same time put more money in infrastructure on roads and bridges and stuff like that. And so with that point, I want to pass that on to Leo because, we have to understand that there's over 30 legislators who represent Maricopa County's interests. For our district, we have 2 counties, there's just 3 of us. We have to work together as a team, work with other legislators throughout the rest of the state, rural, to have that coalition and teamwork if we want to get anything done. So when Leo pushes something in the budget on the House side, I back it up, and he does the same thing when I push for something in the Senate side. So it takes teamwork to try to squeeze things in there to make sure that we are not being ignored out here in western Arizona. So, but Leo, take it from there.
That was a record, by the way, on time. Can we give him a pause just for that?
I've been practicing.
Usually we're here for hours, and I'm taking a nap, and I come back, and he's still talking. No, thank you, Sonny. I mean, Senator Borelli has done an incredible job, and he's right. We came from this huge deficit, and the important thing is, though, when you have this revenue, there's a few things you have to do. One is obviously give the money back if we have a surplus as big as we do now, which we did with a tax cut. But the other is infrastructure. When I got into the legislature, we found out that Highway 95 hasn't been properly repaved in 20 years. And so I got with Sonny and Gina and said, look, this is ridiculous that we continue to get ignored out here in rural Arizona. It always happens, right? It's always about the great state of Maricopa. You go to Phoenix, there's always new highways and new ramps and new loops, and they have their own taxing authority, but the bottom line is we always get ignored. I mean, 20 years, that would never happen in Phoenix, right? They repave all the time. So we stuck together, we fought. This is why I love the relationship I have with Cal and with Jess, because we're always coordinating on what we need to do, and we got the approval. So we got $46 million in the budget that was approved to repave all of Highway 95, Havasu and through Bullhead. So it was a huge, huge win for Arizona. So hopefully we'll start this year. We're talking, I think November has been the talks on when they'll start breaking ground and repaving it. And you all know, driving Highway 95, how disastrous it is. And it's funny, when I first brought that bill up, it died in committee. So you have Republicans and Democrats that voted no, and these are a majority are coming from Phoenix area. And so I had to literally come back to Havasu. It was a weekend, and I'm on the Highway 95 in 110-degree weather, and I'm taking pictures of the highway like a crazy man. And I went back to the Capitol, and I gave it to all the legislators. I said, look, none of you come out to our area. You have no idea what we're dealing with. And the moment they saw that, I mean, it passed 10-0 in committee and got through. So huge win for Arizona. Another big deal was the SLIF funding, and SLIF funds. Does anybody know what that is or what that means? So the State Lake Improvement Fund. So this is a fund that in 2008, when we were in the recession, literally got swept for 12 years, 10 years. So this money goes towards law enforcement on the lake. It goes to building launch ramps and things that were related to the lake itself, which Havasu, we generate like 90% of this fund, right? Because our lake is packed all the time. And so what was happening is they were sweeping those funds and using it for other things. So another project that Sonny was working on before I got in and we decided, let's put the hammer down on this, and said, look, these sweeps got to end. We're generating all this revenue. None of it's coming back to us as our local community. And so we said we want that money back. So we got that approved last year. We put $2 million the last year and another $2 million this year. And what it did was immediately gave some help to Lake Havasu City. I know Chief Doyle, they were able to get about $800,000 in that first jump to replace some boats. Mojave County Sheriff's Department got another $800,000 to build some boats or get some new boats. And then Buckskin in Parker, which is a crazy story. So these guys came to us saying, look, our boat is 22 years old, and they're the only law enforcement on the water down at that part of the river 24 hours.
Fireboat.
Fireboat, yeah. And so they do everything down there because they're the only 24/7 boat. So they call us saying, we need a new boat. We're 22 years old. This thing is breaking down all the time. And so we're fighting at the Capitol to get this thing. Literally, I think it was a week. 1 week we get it approved. The next week their boat sinks. Like they're on a call putting out a fire, and it literally capsizes. And so talk about timing, right? I mean, just show you how great. But it was great. They have a brand new boat. We took a ride on it last year, and obviously they're doing great things and got new equipment and whatnot. But those are a couple things that are phenomenal that we're doing. Another big thing for me, and I know I got Sonny behind me on this one, is the second bridge. Like I'm sure you all read that is kind of my baby. I want that thing done before I get done. And you all know this when you drive around, how insane traffic gets on big holidays. I mean, you can't even get on that island. And the main thing is about safety. Right, if everything ever happened on the bridge, and it's happened before we have accidents, but if you have, we talk about pipes bursting, you have a lot of pipes that are going underneath that channel, and if something happens, you could have an emergency. So our thought is we should put something in place. If we have the revenue to do it at the state level, let's try to figure out how to help. So it's been a bit of a battle because like Sonny said, you're fighting against the Maricopa County legislators who don't care about rural Arizona. And so this year we're fighting for the budget to at least have an impact study done, a feasibility study done. And that'll be about $250,000 that we're trying to secure for the budget to see, okay, how's this bridge going to work? We looked at other options, but the bridge is going to be most affordable. And so that's something that I think we're going to get in this budget to at least start the process and move forward with the second bridge, which is it's exciting.
And one of the pushback was, well, that's in the city. Why should we be using state funds for that? Well, the nexus is this. The island is state land.
Yeah.
So, and the city's already purchased land on that one side for a bridge. So the nexus is already there. The city's already got some buy-in on it anyway. The state needs to step up because this is a public safety issue.
Yeah.
It's not just a convenience issue. Something happens on that bridge, you can't get through. Somebody's having a heart attack on the island. Guess what? You need the whole cavalry to show up. You're not going to be able to cavalry show up if that bridge is blocked.
Right. And it's we talked about it. It's going to be a simple. We don't want to take away from the London Bridge. I mean, that is such a beautiful piece and part of the city. So it'll be something that's obviously simple and just is going to do its job, which is exciting. So hopefully we'll have some news about that in the next couple weeks. Another big issue that I know you all, one is the Airbnb situation, which I know has been a huge problem here. I ran a bill this year, and this just kind of explains the bureaucracy that's involved when you're down at the legislature, how hard it is to get a bill passed. I had a bill that was simple. I worked with Cal, I worked with Jess, I worked with a lot of people, with Sonny, and we said, let's make something simple that just says, look, let's notify your neighbors if you're an Airbnb, let's let the city know, have your contact information. We didn't want to get too big government and say you can't have Airbnbs, because a majority of you in Havasu, you rent out a room, right? You're gone for the weekend, you might rent out your room or your house. But now we have this problem where we have hedge fund companies coming in, and they're buying 30, 40, 50 homes. They're renting them out like hotels. We have to have some kind of regulation, even if it's small. But my bill, bipartisan, passed committee. I think there was one no vote. And then it gets to the Senate, and it doesn't move forward because you have bureaucracy. And you have people that say, my bill's better, and my bill's better, and no, mine's better. And it's infighting, and it's so silly because this is a bill that had support from both sides. But you have certain legislators that have that ego, and they're saying, nope, not letting your bill go forward because I want mine to go forward.
And then, of course, on the other side, for example, the side that's supporting Leo's and our version is because our bill's not moving, and they're saying, well, if that one doesn't go far enough, so I'm a no on it, so they convince everybody to go, so you can't get anything done. I'd rather get an 80% win because it's not a 20% loss. That's a win. So, these are the kind of things. I told Leo when he was running, and when he got elected, we said, guess what? You're going to watch out for the minefield, and then there's the viper pit. So, and he understood you got a taste of the viper pit. You just got to look, you can live in a house with a rattlesnake if you know the rattlesnake is there. So,
yeah, and the good news is, we're not done fighting for the Airbnb situation. So next year we're going to have a different legislature. You have a new speaker. You have probably 5 or 6 more seats on both sides that are on the Republican side. So
a new governor.
Well, new governor, which is a big part of this.
Yes.
And so things will be changing. Sonny and I are fortunate to be in leadership positions. I'm the majority whip, and he's the majority whip on the Senate side. So this is why we've been able to get so much accomplished at the state level, and it's been great. So hopefully that continues next year. We got to win our election, but I don't see it. Well, you don't have a competitor at all, so he's getting no matter what. But
thank you. Thank you.
So that's great. Another thing I want to touch really quickly is water. We all talked about water. We all know that's on our mind to make sure our water is protected. And coming back to the comment before about this battle that we have with the great state of Maricopa, I'm going to give you an idea of what's happening right now. So behind the scenes, there's a battle going on. And this battle has to do with Maricopa County cities and counties and Pima trying to take our water out here in rural Arizona. I mean, Sonny, Gina, and I have been in closed-door meetings where it is absolutely, you probably don't even want to be in there because, just to give you an idea, literally their mentality is this. You don't need the water on the river. We're growing faster. We're more important than you are, so we're going to come take your water, period. This is their mentality. Yes, right. So what we have come down to now is they have a bill that's going to take, they want to take Harquahela. This is a aquifer that's in La Paz County. It's huge. You're talking, I think, 3 or 4 Lake Meads. It's very large, but it's also very brackish. So, I mean, there's a lot of salt in there. So they got to clean it up. They got to do a lot of work. But they're saying that we want to take all that water. You can't do anything about it. And, we have the votes. So we came back and said, look, if you want a piece of that water, because a part of that does go into Maricopa County, about 40% is in La Paz County. We said, we'll work out a deal to where you can take your percentage, but you're not taking the river water anymore. Because what's happening is, and we saw this last year with Queen Creek, is that they are coming now and they're saying that we want to get your water off the river and we're going to pump it to Maricopa County. And that is not going to happen under my watch. It's not going to happen under his watch. It's not going to happen under Gina's watch. I'm telling you right now. And they're trying. I mean, to the point to where they're telling us, we're going to find a way to get this. You guys can't get in the way. And they have something coming, because I'm telling you right now, that is the problem with when you have a large majority of the legislature that represents the big cities, right? Because they're bullies. And they say, oh, it's just you 3 down there. We're going to figure a way to get it. And it's not going to happen. Because our goal is, look, if you want that water, it's all about negotiation, right? You're not going to take the river water anymore. Because you have a priority off the river. A lot of people forget that you have the Colorado River that is having a piece is going to Colorado, pieces going to Nevada, pieces going to Arizona, pieces going to California, pieces going to Mexico. There's all these straws that are in that water. And the moment we give it up, it will never come back. I'm telling you right now. Because they are growing in Phoenix at a point where they don't even secure the water. They approve the project first, and then they go look for the water. I mean, it's absolutely irresponsible, and that's not how things work. If you want to build a community, you better figure out your water first, not the other way around. And it's happening. They approved a Nestle plant in Glendale area.
That's a Nestle water.
Nestle water plant, by the way.
Bottled
water. Where do you think they're getting their water from?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they're approving all these huge corporations and companies, and then they're looking for the water. So I'm telling you, you have my full word here, and I know Sunny the same thing, and we're working with Cal and Jess about this. Like, we are going to protect this water out here, because our job as your legislators is to protect rural Arizona and push back against what these guys in Maricopa are trying to do.
And here's just to kind of also illustrate how things kind of went our way, but screwed things up for them. When they redistricted our legislative district, they drew Wickenburg into our district, which means 100% of the Harquahala is in our legislative district. So if they think we're just going to roll over like a donut, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
So, but that's the kind of shenanigans that goes on around there in Phoenix. But there's other things. I got tricks up my sleeve. These people have no idea the games I can play. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you so. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll, the last thing real quick, Sonny, you want to talk about the Veterans Home, then we'll close up.
Yeah, right now the Veterans Home, we got approved for, a project in Mojave County. There's a feasibility study that's they're ginging up, and it looks like actually Lake Havasu is going to be able to have has the better amenities and location and so forth. So, but that's one of them bureaucratic, dragging their feet getting things done. And but the money, $25 million, is set aside in there. It'll be extended if we need to. So, but that project is still ongoing. It hasn't just been off on the shelf or underneath the carpet. So, yeah.
And then I just want to end real quick. I just want to share with you how important it is and how great it is to have the relationships we have with Cal, with Jess, Jenny, David Lane, every city councilman, Chief Doyle. This is why we're able to get so much done, is because we have these relationships where we can call them at any moment and they'll answer. And this is how government should work. You should be able to answer to your constituents. You should be able to answer to other people that are elected. And you have to be really a team to get things done. And we have done more, I think, in these last 4 years of the legislature for our community than ever in the history of Arizona. And a big part of that is because of these great relationships we have. And you have people that listen to each other and respect each other. We might not always agree with each other, and that's okay. But the point is, we listen, we respect each other, and we're listening to all of you in this room. So I appreciate all of you so much for what your support, and continue to come to these meetings, because unless we hear from you, we don't know what the problems are. So I thank you guys so much. I don't know if you want to take questions or not. But.
Yeah. Well, Dave, we'll get to questions in just a second. Oh, they'll be here. They have their own.
We're not
meetings,
losing.
for engagement. So yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, appreciate
Thank you guys.
it. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Film at 11.
Yeah. Thank you so much to Senator Borelli and Representative Biasucci and Representative Cobb. They really do great work with us, and as Representative Biasucci said, it is all about the relationships. Most of my conversations with Sonny and Leo are like 10 or 11 o'clock at night, because that's when they're out of session. I'm done with my day, or when I'm driving back from the legislature at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, so we can talk through what these issues are going to be. But they always take our calls. We don't always agree, but they know, that's because they know what's happening down there, all that weird shenanigans, as Senator Burley said. And we think it's just common sense, like, why isn't this passing? So it's a great relationship, and we value that. When it comes to water, when we're talking about taking Colorado River water, as the senator and representative were saying, that's priority 4 water. These water entitlements that we have, we've paid for them. So it's not like they're just on paper. We've actually paid for them. There are water entitlements, and we're in the process right now of planning a water meeting, because the law of the river is very, very complicated. And so we've explained it in these settings, but we want to have a special meeting just for water. So anyone that's interested in water, we'll invite the Bureau of Reclamation, the state, and others, so that we can answer all of the questions and have one focus on water, because it is very, very complicated. But that way everyone can understand it. We're all starting from the same basis of the information that's there. One last update, and then we'll go ahead and get to your questions, is on the 28th of June, we have the courthouse will be coming for an update. Historical perspective, we had a consolidated court system for many, many years. It worked for about 25 years, but as caseloads rose in all of the courts, so the consolidated court consisted of the Justice Court, which is the Justice of the Peace, an elected judge, the Superior Court with the county, and then our municipal court ran by our magistrate, Mitch Clolly. So we were all in the same building, same resources, same everything, but our caseloads were just getting too large. And so it wasn't able to work. The presiding judge at the time wanted us to deconsolidate that process, which is great, but the real goal for deconsolidation was so that they could have more room. The only way to get more room is to get us out of there. So we're currently a tenant at the county facility, and they want us out so that they can expand their court. We have access to maybe 1 courtroom a day, not even for a full calendar day.
Part of it.
And we have 3 judges, because in Arizona, you have to be arraigned within 24 hours. So our court's something people don't know. They're open 365 days a year, and that includes court reporters, court clerks, the judges. All of them are working every single day, and we don't have enough space. So we were looking for a variety of options. We looked at leasing some vacant buildings in town. We looked at building something here on City Hall complex. We already have the land.
We looked at partnering with the county and maybe spending money on the existing building to increase and expand that.
Yeah, that was actually the first thing we looked at, was the expansion of College Street. And then an opportunity became available to buy a property adjoining to City Hall complex at 92 Acoma, which we purchased in 2020. We're in the process of going through what that needs. So the magistrate, Jess, and the team have been going through and identifying the needs of the court, what the court looks like, and what it needs to be able to produce from a safety standpoint, as well as flow of people. And they have gotten to a point where they're ready to give us the first version. We've already seen bubble depictions of space planning, and a lot of people were like, what does that mean? And I don't understand, but this was just real big picture, like, okay, if we need this courtroom, and we need this, and we need that. Now it's actually going to come together in a presentation. We also looked at, today we're actually standing in our council chambers. We like to own it and call it our own. It's not. The chief has been very gracious to loan this to us for the last 25 years, but this is really the police department training facility. So there's times when you come in to this meeting and these whiteboards off to the side have tactical information on them that is confidential in nature for public safety. And we are trying to erase that real quick before it gets in the hands of the wrong people. So the courthouse has good ingress and egress, and there's opportunity for us to have a council chambers there as well. That can be a multi-purpose room. So not only does the council meet in this room, we also, all of our boards, committees, and commissions, because this is where all the technology is at, for people to be able to view this at home and have engagement through Channel 4 and other outlets. So it's used a lot, which means the police department doesn't have a lot of opportunity to ever use their own training facility, and they're cramped into smaller spaces trying to do that. They're still getting their training, just not in the most efficient way. So we have an opportunity to have council chambers there as well. That will be a multi-purpose room that will be used by the courts, as well as all of the stuff that we have. So we ask you to get involved and come see us on the 28th of June at our council meeting and get an update on that. I know you and your team are presenting it. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, working hard with we hired the architect early on, then we brought in a general contractor to be part of those conversations. That's really paid off in spades in terms of what we're able to accomplish with those conversations. We're talking with the general contractor that is going to be responsible for the contract, right? So they're going to tell us how much that's going to cost, and then we're going to hold them to it. So that's what's been happening the last several months. We're at a 30+% design. Some cost estimates, and we present all that stuff, all those items to the council on the 28th of June. I think one other element is it's the history and the background of why we're here and why we're doing it. And Havasu is growing, right? For the city of this size, with the amount of volume that comes into place, how many arrests occurred over Memorial Day weekend? That's the impacts on our PD. That's the impacts on our attorney's office, and obviously the impacts on the court. And so we need to make sure that we're there to do the things that need to be done. But even more so is that proactive approach that Judge Kalali has introduced several years ago with the Veterans Treatment Court. And that's done a lot of things. We talk about how many repeat offenders. How many times are you seeing that same person coming into the courtroom and being cited and fined that'll never be paid, and another 30 days in jail, another 30 days in jail, and then the cycle maybe starts when this individual's 30 years old, and when they're 70, it's still happening. I mean, how do you grab that individual and provide them with the assistance that they need to break that routine? And that's what the judge has been able to do with these specialty courts, including the Veterans Treatment Court. But we're able to do that to the best that we can in a cramped and confined space at the existing location. But there's no ability to expand that into other areas within the community. So with other specialty courts, is mental health an issue in Lake Havasu City? It is huge, and there's no assistance that's out there to help the individuals that need help. So Judge Kalali has talked about a specialty court for mental health. How do we grab these individuals and get them the help, the counseling services, and the other services that they need to break these trends and routines and get them, get them outside of the court system and get them into the public in a way that can assist them. So we can't do those things unless we have the space to accomplish them. So when I know that he's talking about other specialty courts, again, to break these trends and these routines over and over again that are there. Based on some of the initial conversations that we're having just on the specialty courts for mental health, and the great things that our police chief Dan Doyle is doing, engaging his team, is looking at other services that we can piggyback off of those conversations to help and assist with our law enforcement. So we're trying to do the best we can to bring more services to Havasu, based on what we can do at the courthouse with Judge Kalali, and based on what Chief Doyle is trying to accomplish within law enforcement. So there's doing the best we can, and that's just one of the tools we need to accomplish those tasks.
Yeah, the recidivism rate right now for our treatment court is less than 10%, and general population for the court, it's in like the mid-80%. So 85% of the folks will reoffend and go back into that system, which is very complicated. But we have a proven strategy that works out really well, that we can expand when we get there. But we also are out of space just for our regular court filings. We do upwards of in between 8,500 and 10,000 court filings. Sometimes we think of courts just for bad people, but it's not. There's victims that need court services. There's orders of protection. There's business functions. Lots of things occur at the court, and as just mentioned, we have lots of different people that are using that. So we have the police department, we have our prosecutor's office, we have city staff, we have the court. Right now we're chasing all over town to get to each other to see all these things happening. Now we can just walk across the parking lot and have that. So really excited to be able to bring that online. And one of the delays we had is they started the planning process, and then Jess was like, hey, maybe we should bring the contractor in so we can try and identify early on cost-saving measures that would work. So Jess stopped it to do that, get council approval to move forward, and now we have the contractor on board, so we know what the cost is going to be. We're not going to be able to have cost overruns because we brought all the players to the table early on to ensure that we did it in the most efficient way. So We are now to the part of the program where we'll turn it over to you. I know there's lots of questions. Before I do that, I do want to introduce Councilmember David Lane is with us this morning. Thank you, Councilmember Lane, for being here. He's also going to pass the mic, so he'll be in charge of the questions. And then Councilmember Jenny Koch is also with us. Thank you for being here. And Councilmember Campbell was here. She might have had to step out for a minute, but thank you all for being here. So, Councilmember Lane, if you want to take it away, and we'll answer any questions.
Yes, Mayor and Manager and council members, thank you. The budget year ends on June the 30th and begins on July the 1st. But the final budget isn't approved until after that, several weeks after that, as I recall. And I'm wondering, how do you pay for things until your money comes in August? And what can you do to change it so that the budget year would be finalized, say in June instead of in July?
Yeah, great question. So the budget is actually adopted in its final form on June 28th. We follow state law on that. What I think you're referring to, James, is the final tax levy rate is not done until July. So the budget has to be approved first, and then the levy is adopted at the next meeting. But that is what state law has. And so the budget is finalized on June 28th for the July 1 start date. If the tax levy were not to be adopted as presented in the budget at that July meeting, then expenditures would decrease if the rate was decreased, or it couldn't increase because the tentative budget was already adopted on June 14th. But if the council for some reason increased the levy for some reason, those monies would not be able to be spent, although they could be collected. That's never happened, and I don't anticipate that ever happening in this environment.
Yeah, and I think it's important, obviously, to have the dollars to pay the bills, right, too, but it's also probably more important that there's a transparent process that takes place. So what you're seeing is a series of meetings throughout the year, and then emphasized more so in the last couple of months, with work sessions and so forth. And actually on the next council meeting, we'll have the adoption of the tentative budget. So there's actually 2 votes by council to adopt the budget. So and then at the tentative process that kicks in, you can't spend more than and all those types of things that are out there. So from a council's perspective, from the public's perspective, it's like we talk about the budget, and then we go through a process and say, "Are you sure?" And we go, "Okay, are you really sure?" And then we go, "Oh, okay, we're going to do it. Are you sure?" So that's a good thing, because that we want to make sure that the input is collected. A lot of times we get hammered as city leaders because why does it take so long? It takes so long. I could do that in 2 days. It takes you guys 2 months to accomplish that. A lot of that is because we want the public input, and we want the transparency that's required to make some good decisions. And that's just one example of how many times it's got to be before council.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, you guys, you talk about your dumping in the desert. I go out and clean the desert up all the time.
Thank you.
I find bags of trash out there, unopened bags of trash. Take pictures of it. Open the bag, find envelopes, names, addresses on it, prescriptions on it, everything. Take pictures of it then, turn it in. I get laughed at. You didn't see them dump it there, so therefore we can't do nothing. You write them a ticket, let them fight it in court. It's their trash. I go out there and take pictures. Clean the desert up, take a picture. Motorhome's parked there. Take a picture of the motorhome, license plate, and all the stuff sitting around it. Motorhome's gone, all the stuff's still sitting there. You didn't see them leave it there.
Are you notifying Erase at the county? Is that who you're notifying when?
I notified you, and you don't want to do nothing with it because it's not proper.
Jeez. Yeah.
So I take it to BLM.
No, take it to Erase. So Erase is the at Mojave County Public Works. They're the ones that do the investigation. If you have a bag with names on the trash items, that's where they start their work. That's how they operate.
Yeah.
Mojave County Public Works Department. There's a program called Erase, ERACE. It stands for something, but
They're in Kingman.
Yeah.
They're based in Kingman. So
they serve the entire county. So
Yeah.
I think it's Todd Davidson. I think runs the program. A really great individual. some limited resources, but that's exactly where his job starts, is when there's trash in the desert, is the investigation occurs to see whose it is, they make contact, find them, or make them clean it up. So we'd like to see them put a couple more penalties.
Yes,
Tell the county.
Yeah, we have folks on TV, so we can't yell across the room. But full disclosure, you've never given me any pictures of anything. We've worked in partnerships to get the desert cleaned up. But the work we're doing right now with the county and BLM is exactly what you describe, is to be able to not allow those people to fall through the cracks and increase the ordinance at the county level, which is the jurisdiction, so that there is some teeth in that when they do find and identify something. So we have a same common goal of where we're trying to go, and we appreciate all of the work you do out in the desert. And we will continue our work on this effort with these partnerships to get that desert cleaned up, which is the end result. So,
He was up first.
My case is probably not unique, but I'm highly allergic to dogs. And I'm allergic to all the medicine that they ever gave me for allergies. Grocery stores and restaurants, I have to leave because, and my understanding, the dogs are not even supposed to be in there. You go to the produce area, you look at like the green peppers and bulk potatoes and stuff. I get them home, there's dog hair stuff on them. I have to wash all this stuff. The meat department, the packages of meat, I've had reactions from them. I'm looking and here's dog hair and stuff all over. People are carrying dogs up here, and I know they're not service dogs. And other people come up and they fluff them up and everything, and it just wipes me out. My vocal cords swell up. I sound like Mickey Mouse. I have a hard time breathing. I leave my stuff in the cart and go out for fresh air. Once I start breathing again, if I'm lucky, my cart's still sitting there. And a lot of times I don't get everything I need at the grocery stores. And the other day, a lady told me, I was asking help to find something. And this lady walked up, my wife says, get going, get going. Well, I felt it before I even seen this dog. And it was just a shaggy looking dog on a rope. And she says, what, are you scared of dogs? I said, no, I'm allergic to dogs. She says, you better get out of my way because I'm going down there. And I told the clerk, I said, what can you do about this? She says, hey, they come in here, crap on the floor and everything. We can't say anything to them because of laws. Well, there is an ordinance that they can be fined up to $250, but the people in the store says that they can't confront them. Could somebody do something to this? My biggest thing is if I could get 1 or 2 days a week, have a dog-free city, I'd go to my restaurants, I'd go do my grocery shopping, and I would stay the heck away from everybody on the rest of the weeks. You don't see me going into pet stores. Why should pets be going into grocery stores?
Yeah, no, thank you for your comments. And when it comes to the laws, most of them are federal in nature through the American with Disabilities Act. And there are very specific laws that govern folks that need a dog for special needs. There's also some state law that supports it as well, that allows for people that need to take an animal with them into a place that they can do so. State law further defines it, actually, believe it or not, it's a dog or a miniature pony are the two things that are legal by state law. But when it comes to those, my recommendation to you would be to call the store owner or the corporation. Some of them might be corporate policies where they don't allow their staff to confront one of their customers on that particular issue. There's no local law that prevents a store from not allowing animals into their store. There are some health code things at the county level from the health department that don't allow animals near food preparation and those types of things. So not trying to pass the buck, but there is no law that they're breaking by taking their animal in. So if you want to frequent a particular restaurant or business that is allowing animals and that's impacting you and your ability to do business with them, I would recommend you contact them and see if they can mitigate that issue for you some way on certain days. But there is no local laws that we could change or implement to prevent that from occurring.
You could make an ordinance to where I could have 1 day a week
No, yeah, the way laws and ordinances work in general is it has to be the welfare of and the welfare of all. And so these are how things are happening. And so in these kind of engagements that we have with the public in group settings like this or one-on-one or however it is we connect, that's where we learn what the needs of the citizens are. You're the first person that has mentioned this to me, so my ears are open. And should that be something that is of widespread concern to our community, we can look at some other alternatives for that. But right now, I think going to the stores that you frequent would be your best answer.
Yes. Has there been any movement made on the water rates and the sewer rates for the multifamily units that are in town? I know we kicked it down the road a little bit, but I just wondered if anything has been done to that.
Yeah, great question. So the IDD, which was the first quasi-government that McCulloch set up back in the 60s, he created an irrigation and drainage district, IDD. We all pay that, all property owners pay a fixed rate based on acreage size that is expiring on June 30th. So with
Under
that,
property tax.
On property tax, yeah. So on June 30th, that expires, that'll go away. But with it goes away $5.7 million that funds our water system. So that's what sparked the need for a utility wastewater study and rate study. We went through that process, and when we did so, the council gave direction to the staff and to the consultant to build the rate structure based on cost of delivery of service. And so that sounds right? I mean, it's pretty common sense when we say, if it costs you this much to use the system, that's how much you should pay. If it costs me this much, that's how much I should pay. I mean, in theory, that sounded good. When we gave that direction to them, they then put together all of the numbers and what that looks like. And some rates went down and some rates went up. And most notably in the multifamily area, their base rate was becoming the same as a single family home, which, if they have 2 bathrooms in there and there's 2 bathrooms in a single family home, it could be argued that it's the same. But at the end of the day, the cost for the delivery of service was the same, and that's why that went there. That created some issues for HOAs. HOAs have some laws where they can only increase their maintenance fees by 5% a year, and so they were put in a terrible situation. So the council reevaluated it and worked with the multifamily folks so that it would work and was doable. And then we wanted to wait a year so we had full seasonality built into our system. So although we have water and wastewater infrastructure year-round, we pay for all of those pipes in the ground and water and all of those things, we do have seasonality built in with our winter visitors, our summer visitors, high peak users of our full-time residents, of what that all looks like for system demand. So this fall, we'll reevaluate what that looks like. Actually, coming up soon, you'll probably have some action for council to take to have someone assist us with identifying what a path forward and a structure would be. I'm not sure how quick that will be coming before council.
So as timing indicated that what's happened in the past, like moving forward, how is it? What are next steps? So city will be putting out a request for proposals. Actually, a request for qualifications out to the open market and looking at consultants that can assist us with this effort, and that'll be done. So and then that'll go out in the street. We'll get the proposals. We'll identify the firm that's best able to assist us. When it comes to designing a fee structure for water and wastewater services, we've never done it before. As city staff, that we're very good at turning a wrench. We're very good at replacing equipment and fixing broken pipes. We're not good at developing a pay philosophy or a user fees. So we rely on the consultants that do this many times throughout the year with other cities in Arizona or across the country. So we need that expertise to assist us in that effort. If you don't get it right the first time, in terms of that introduction of what it looks like, it'll cause problems for us. But we'll have some conversations and with that at the council level after that consultant comes on board. You're going to see more work sessions with council. We're going to write that into the proposal. Public meetings where people can provide their input in terms of what that looks like. And then once again, the goal here, right, is that we're not trying to generate more money than it takes to operate a system. What we want is a water system and a water fund where the user fees match the cost it takes to provide the service. That's it. And then the same thing over here with the wastewater. We want to make sure that there's enough dollars in the fund to pay for the replacement of the wastewater mains and our 3 wastewater treatment plants and the personnel and vehicles it takes to operate that without it breaking. So that's our goal. We'll take a close look at that. It's something that we've been probably long overdue in Lake Havasu City in terms of trying to get this kind of squared away over the last several years. But that's the timing of the plan.
So with the rate structure, it's going to give certainty to water users on what that looks like. We didn't have rate increases for about 12 years throughout that process, but as the market conditions changed, 12 years is a long time not to have built-in increases to ensure that we have all of the infrastructure taken care of that needs to be. It's not just taking a look at what it costs in a month. It's taking into account all of our capital improvement projects to ensure that we have good piping, good treatment systems, good water delivery systems for the long range of what this would look like, 10 to 20 years. So they have to put all these numbers in, divide out, and then based on what that is. As Jess alluded to, I think one of the areas that last time, besides the mistake of doing cost for delivery real broadly, not asking more questions on what that looked like, the timing we were doing it was also not everyone was feeling comfortable being in public meetings during the timing because of the situation in the world, and we didn't have as many public hearings. So I think we had several still. We had 6+, but we're going to expand that so that we can really engage. And certainly I'm a whole lot more educated on what that looks like, and we'll know what questions to ask and how to ask him and what it means. I joke with Jess that I'm a master biller now, where I can do up anyone's billing when it comes to water, because I had to really understand and do a deep dive in what that looked like and what was it that I may have missed that led to that confusion for multifamily owners. So thank you for the question. I think we might have time for one more if there is one. Yeah, we'll go to Christine and then Margie. Yeah.
Oh, you're so quiet. You snuck up on me. All right, gentlemen, I applaud you. You did an outstanding presentation about our desert. You've been listening.
And using the desert. Yes.
I know.
Yes.
We all want to use it. And gentlemen back there, thank you for your help in cleaning up the desert. But I want you to pay attention to this sign right here. It says reward. And when you turn somebody in and a race gets money from them, like $150,000, 2.5 years in jail, you get a reward. So before you leave tonight, contact this number, 928-715-0480. That's a race. That's who you call. They're the detectives in the desert. So anyway, thank you guys so much. And POD's been in effect for 4 years. It was started just by a community because we were so tired of the abuse that was going out in our area. And I finally got a business card. So be sure to pick one up because there's some good information on the back. And also there's some little yellow tags that say bulky pickup. 4 items 6 times a year. When your neighbors put something out on the thing that says free, give them one of those little yellow tags. Say, call bulky pickup. Don't leave it out there. The kids pick it up and burn it and shoot it up. So anyway, thank you. But my one question, they left. I want to annex Maricopa. I want us, the rural Arizonans, to form Western Arizona, just like there's a Western Virginia. And that way we can have our own Congress, our own Senate, and Maricopa won't roll over us. So just a thought. And I don't know if we're allowed to save the water that we're setting down river, but maybe we need a reservoir.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you for your work out in the desert. And then Margie here in the...
Well, this is a thank you, and I just want to thank our mayor, and our city manager because our mayor came out and visited a center who had done tremendous work with this is Raising Our Talker, a program that they had done with the international language researcher. And it's exciting because when the mayor and I spoke about him coming and visiting this center and whatnot, and he did, and we got pictures, and the city manager mentioned it. Well, what's on the front page very soon afterwards? But Parents as Teachers, which is another grant by First Things First, working with young brains and whatnot. And then, of course, then Healthy Families had something out there, also working with young families. So I just really appreciate, the work you do in the community and how you'll get the word out there, and you've been to our conference, Leo's been to our conference to try to, get the word out, because there are, grants out there and work being done, but when the city comes forward, it validates the work. Somebody says, oh, maybe I'll call parents as teachers, or, oh yeah, I heard of Raising a Talker, the mayor did it, and then it was on the website. So thank you so much for that, and it's much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, and Margie takes care of our youngest citizens. So from 0 to 5, she's making sure that our young minds are going to be bright into our future. So thank you for your work. Well, we've come to our time for today, so we'll be available afterwards, but we do have a hard stop time. Thank you so much for the opportunity to serve you. We will be dark next month because it's over a holiday weekend, so we will not be here on July, but we will resume in August, the first Friday of August at 8:30, and we hope you all have a great summer. We'll see you in August. We'll be right back here in this room. So thank you. Take care.
Thank you.